A tsunami kills you in ways you don't expect, and the deadliest one isn't water at all. Japan ruled 92% of deaths drowning. The bodies said something else. Meet Dave. He won't survive. Watch how. Dave has a plan. Climb the nearest tree, hold on tight, and wait for the wave to pass. There's just one flaw. This wave was never going to pass. A normal ocean wave is only the surface of the water moving up and down. It rises, breaks on the beach, and slides back out within seconds. A tsunami moves the entire ocean, from the seafloor all the way up. A beach wave is maybe 200 feet from one crest to the next. A tsunami can stretch over 300 miles between crests. That single fact is why it never crashes and pulls away. It arrives, and then it just keeps on arriving. The water climbs for 5 minutes, then 10, sometimes for a full hour. It floods streets and hills that sat far above the sea. Dave's tree is underwater now. So is Dave's plan, and this is the part that quietly kills the most people. The first wave is almost never the biggest one. The third, fourth, even fifth wave can hit far harder, sometimes with an hour of dead calm in between, long enough to convince survivors it's finally over. It is not over. There is no after the wave. There's only ocean, sitting where your street used to be. But for most victims, the trap springs long before the wave, the moment the sea pulls back and vanishes. Before the wave, the ocean does something that looks like a gift. The sea drains off the beach, fast, like someone pulled a plug. The seabed is suddenly bare. Fish flop in the open air. A shipwreck appears. Dave sees free seafood. Dave walks toward the water that just left. This is called drawback, and it happens in about half of all tsunamis. It's simple, brutal physics. A wave has a high crest and a low trough. When the trough reaches shore first, the sea gets sucked outward before it returns, and it doesn't pull back a few feet. In Somalia in 2004, the ocean withdrew in stages. First 100 meters, then 900, then 1,300. Nearly a mile of bare seafloor. What people don't feel is what that empty space means. The trough is the front of the wave. The crest is right behind it. In Thailand and Indonesia, hundreds walked out onto the exposed reef to grab fish. Most of them were dead within minutes. One person read it correctly. A 10-year-old on a beach in Phuket. Tilly Smith had learned this exact sign in a geography class 2 weeks earlier. She screamed until her parents and the hotel cleared the sand. Around 100 people walked off that beach before a 30-foot wave arrived. The ocean wasn't offering Dave a gift, it was inhaling. Dave keeps walking out, and the water is about to come back, with company. The water comes back, and here's where everyone pictures drowning. Clean blue water filling the streets. That picture is wrong. A tsunami isn't water. It's everything the water has picked up. Cars, shipping containers, trees ripped out by the roots, rebar, glass, whole houses. In Japan in 2011, the waves dragged 5 million tons of debris into the Pacific. In Aceh, the water carried a 2,600-ton ship over 2 miles inland. Now picture Dave in that current, with all of it moving at highway speed. Getting hit by even a small object at 30 miles an hour breaks bone. It knocks you out cold before water is even the problem. Which brings us back to that number. Japan ruled 92% of deaths drowning. Then forensic teams examined 126 bodies up close. 90% of them had crushed bones and ruptured organs, injuries you'd expect from being hit by a car at 40 kilometers an hour. So, drowning is the official cause. It is not what actually happened. Most of them were beaten unconscious first. The water just finished the job. That's the truth the bodies were telling. The tsunami doesn't drown you politely. It hits you. The water is only what's left once you can't fight back. So the obvious move is to run. Get inland. Get away from it. That instinct is about to kill Dave a second time. Dave does the natural thing. He turns and sprints inland. Surely you can outrun water. You cannot. Out in the open ocean, a tsunami travels like a passenger jet, 500 to 600 miles an hour. It can cross the entire Pacific in under a day. It's so fast and so flat out there that ships sail over it and feel nothing. It only slows when it hits shallow water near the coast. But slow for a tsunami still means up to 30 miles an hour on land. A terrified human on a clean flat track tops out around 15, and Dave is not on a clean flat track. The ground after a quake is rubble, mud, downed lines, and cracks. Real escape speed on that drops to about 3 miles an hour, so the water does 30. Dave does 3. That race is already over. It's why every emergency agency repeats one blunt rule. If you can see the wave, it is already too late to outrun it. The answer was never to run away from it. It was to go up. A high floor of a solid solid building, a hill, anything vertical. A few flights of stairs have saved more people than any sprint, and the ones who couldn't move fast never had a chance. In Japan, 65% of the bodies recovered were over 60. For them, outrunning it was never even a question. Dave ran flat and inland, the single worst direction. And he doesn't even need the wave to lose, just water past his shins. Dave wades into a flooded street. The water is only at his shin. He breathes out. Shallow water feels safe. Moving water doesn't care how deep it is. It cares how fast it's going. 6 inches of fast water can knock a grown adult clean off his feet. Knee deep and staying upright is luck. And the force doesn't add up gently. It scales with the square of the speed. Double the current, and it hits you 4 times as hard. There's a quieter trap working on Dave's legs at the same time. Standing in water, his body floats just a little. His weight on the ground drops. Less weight means less grip. His shoes stop holding the pavement. So a current that looks gentle simply lifts his feet out from under him. By the time he feels the pull, Dave is already going down. And going down here means into the current with the debris. Cars do far worse. 1 foot of water and most of them float. The air sealed inside lifts a car like a balloon, about a ton of buoyancy. The tires leave the road and it becomes a 2-ton raft with no steering. 2 feet of moving water carries off pickups and full-size SUVs. Everyone who tried to drive out just floated into the current. It was never about the depth. It was always about the push. And that push has one specific destination in mind. Somehow Dave breaks the surface. He grabs a floating roof and holds on. Alive. He survived the wave. In a tsunami, that is not the same as surviving. Every ton of water that surged in has to drain back out to sea. That return flow has a name, backwash. And it's often the deadlier half, because now the water is carrying everything it just tore apart. Millions of tons of cars, timber, and steel, all heading back out. And it doesn't drain evenly. It funnels into streets, drains, and riverbeds. Force that much water through a narrow channel, and it accelerates. The ocean arrived like a flood, and leaves like a river in full spate. It pulls the survivors out with it, straight into open sea. This isn't a rare freak outcome. Look at where it left people. A man in Japan went home for belonging and was swept off his feet. The Navy found him 10 miles out, drifting on part of his own roof 2 days later. A young man off Sumatra rode lashed-together wreckage for over a week, picked up around 100 miles from where the water took him. Another drifted at sea for 15 days before a ship found him. And those are the lucky ones, the ones we have names for. Surviving the wave just buys the ocean a second attempt at you. And for some, even reaching dry land isn't the end. The water's already inside them. Dave drags himself onto solid ground, coughing, soaked, but breathing. He made it. He didn't. He just doesn't know it yet. Because during all of that, Dave breathed in. Tsunami water isn't clean seawater. By the time it reaches you, it's a slurry. Salt water mixed with mud, raw sewage, spilled fuel, and the bacteria from all of it. When you go under, you don't choose. You gasp, and you pull that slurry into your lungs. The fine sand and grit scour your airways raw, like sandpaper on the inside. That damage tears open a door, and what walks through it is the real problem. Doctors have a name for what comes next: tsunami lung, a fast pneumonia that destroys the lung from the inside, from microbes that almost never reach us. After 2004, doctors pulled bacteria that cause melioidosis out of survivors' chests. After Japan, it was rare fungi, the kind that don't stop at the lungs. They ride the bloodstream up and seed infections in the brain. And the wave already flattened the hospitals that could have treated any of this. Without the exact right drugs, fast, the body loses. Sepsis, bleeding lungs, paralysis. People who walked out of the water died in a hospital bed 2 to 4 weeks later. Japan counted around 3,000 of these. Deaths the wave caused, but never witnessed. Dave's lungs are already filling, and he's about to step into water that does worse than infect him. Dave wades on through the flooded street. Just dirty water now, nothing left to fear. Except a tsunami doesn't just move the ocean. It rips an entire city apart with it, and it dumps all of that into the same standing water Dave is walking through. Start with the power lines. The quake and the wave bring them down into the flood. Salt water is packed with dissolved salt, which makes it a near-perfect conductor. One live line in the water, and the whole flooded street becomes the wire. You don't have to touch the cable. The current finds you through the water. In 2004, and again in Japan, this killed survivors and the rescuers wading in to help them. Now the part nobody pictures during a flood: fire. The wave shears open fuel tanks, gas lines, and the propane cylinders in every home. Fuel floats. It spreads across the water in a thin film, riding on top of the flood. One spark from a snapped power pole, and the surface of the water catches. In Tsunami, the wave tore open 22 fuel tanks. 3 million gallons gallons of diesel spilled, ignited, and the fire crawled across the water. It spread over 600 acres, feeding on the floating debris as it went. People who escaped the water onto rooftops watched the sea itself burn toward them. So Dave is standing in water that can shock him, and water that can burn him. Flood, live wires, and fire on the surface, all in the same place at once. Every one of these could end Dave, and not one of them is the wave, which is the point. And it leads to the thing that was always going to kill him. Go back to the start, before the wave, before the water ever touched Dave. Because here's the thing this whole video has been circling. Almost everything you've just seen has a way out, if you move in the first few minutes. You can't outrun the wave, but you can already be on high ground when it arrives. And the ocean warns you. The hard shaking, a low roar, the sea pulling back. In Japan, most people on the coast had 30 to 40 minutes before the main wave. That is enough time. It's huge. It's the whole margin between living and not. So why did over 15,000 people die with that time in hand? Because of how the human brain handles a disaster it has never seen. It's called normalcy bias. Faced with the unthinkable, the mind insists it's normal. It spends the most valuable minutes of your life just trying to believe this is real. The surveys after Japan are brutal. A third of people went back for keys, photos, family. Many stopped to film the wave on their phones instead of climbing. Others jumped in cars and died in the traffic jam everyone made at the same moment. And the seawalls made it worse. People trusted the wall and didn't move at all. The average person takes about 12 minutes just to start moving. 12 minutes spent deciding out of the handful you were ever given. And after the first small wave, people walked back down, certain it was over. In Hawaii in 1964, they came home in the lull, and the biggest wave killed them. So here's the answer the title promised. The deadliest part of a tsunami isn't the water. It's the gap between the moment your body could move and the moment your mind lets it. The wave is just physics. The delay is a choice, and it kills more people than any wave. Dave had every signal. The shaking, the roar, the sea walking out to lay the fish at his feet. He had 30 minutes. He spent them taking a selfie with the fish. Dave didn't lose to the ocean. He lost to the pause. The wave was never the hard part. Calm water hides the next wave. Subscribe to see what the ocean does next.